Hi, welcome to Write More Light. This is a web series made by the Midwest Writing Center. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Um, if you're new to the program, here's how it's going to look. I'm going to do a little intro here, then we're going to talk about the topic of the day. It'll be either an interview with somebody super cool, or like today, it'll be a short lesson in something literary. Then I'll give updates on the Midwest Writing Center, and then a writing prompt and send you on your way. So today we are talking about finding the publications for you. Now I want to be really straightforward with you. This is not how to get published. That is each writer's cross to bear, that one alone. And it's also not going to be a quick fix, but it is very straightforward, very solid, research-backed advice. I said research that way because it is both anecdotal and universal. And yeah, let's get into it. First, I want to go ahead and just acknowledge we all want to see our work in big publications like the New Yorker, the Paris Review, whatever. But we may or may not already know that these places are years backlogged, and they often solicit work rather than refer to submissions. So the best thing we can do when we want our writing in the world is to submit elsewhere. Now, it depends on our intentions, etc. But blindly submitting to somewhere like that, especially if we don't have a lot of our work in the world, is just not going to go our way. The first and most important piece of advice, and you've heard this before and you'll hear it again, particularly if you engage at all with the Midwest Writing Center, is you must read widely. You're going to want to, particularly, you want to get your work published, you must read a lot of publications. That said, I feel like this is the most skipped piece of advice, and with, if not good reason, because it's not a good reason, it's understandable. It takes a lot of time and effort to read widely. Reading takes time. It's sometimes work, and the more you read, the more you find is out there to read. But it's important to know that reading is part of writing. If you love writing, if you are a writer, two different things, I guess. If you want to publish your writing, reading is part of that. It's part of the job, just period. It's like how athletes still stretch, singers do vocal warm-ups. Reading is our version of that. So are writing exercises, but that's a different, I digress. So even though it's taking a lot of time and attention to read lots of publications, it's something we should be doing anyway, just to be writers. The reason reading is the first step is because if the publication has a call for submissions and you see fiction and you submit a fiction piece, but you don't know that publication, you might not know that that magazine only publishes speculative fiction. So they're not going to accept your literary fiction, even if it's maybe the best story ever written in the last 10 years. It doesn't fit the work that they're doing. It's usually more nuanced than that, most of the time. So if we start reading different publications and we find ones that we really like, chances are that our writing is more similar to that one than a magazine whose pieces don't speak to us. That's because our work copies our taste. That's how we become the artists that we are, by getting excited about art. Additionally, just because a place publishes fiction doesn't mean that they've ever published something written in, I don't know, second person or passive voice or whatever it is. When you read a publication, you can get a feel for what they like, and that will tell you more likely if they're going to like you. If you don't know how to tell if your work is similar to the work they're putting out there, it's not too hard to figure out. Ask yourself what you like about that work. Ask yourself what are some, and maybe ask somebody else, somebody you trust, to say like what is characteristic of your work or the story or poem or whatever that you're trying to put out in the world. And if you're really into the work, you are probably already asking yourself like, how might you implement things that they do in this piece in your own work. And that's if you aspire to the a cat just ran up on my foot. Just it didn't hurt. If you aspire to their work, that's a good sign too. That means that they're up your alley. So you're probably closer to being up theirs too. Let's say you're on board with that. If you're not on board with doing all this reading, I don't see any reason you need to continue this video. It's legitimately a difficult thing to commit to. Like it is, like it's a lot of work to do a lot of reading. But truly, if you're not doing up for the task of actually reading, you're not going to have luck with the next chunks of the process. You're just not. So hypothetically, you're still watching, even though you're only like half committed to doing the research. I'm going to continue to tell you when you're going to not have much success. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look for places that are accepting submissions. There will be some phrases or short abbreviations or jargon that I'm going to use that include the word subs or open subs. I'm going to list a few websites. These places will generally just have a list, and you can use filters or browse or whatever when you use these websites. This is not an exhaustive list. This is stuff that I came up with off the top of my head. So you can find more, and you can find ones that are better suited to you because you know you. I don't know you. Heavy Feather Review, ChillSubs, CLMP, that's letters, Submittable, Poets and Writers, the magazine, which is also a website, Newpages, Writers Market. Those are just places that tend to have a list of open submissions. Then you're going to want to narrow it down. I'll get to that part in a moment. Social media is actually really, 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 really particularly great for this because folks who really want submissions are advertising. So whatever socials you're on, and I'll follow up if you don't use socials. Track tags. So how you can do that is you go to, really honestly, probably a search option, depends on what social you're using again, and you type in the thing that you want to follow. So I would do subs open, like one word. It'd be hashtag subs open. Hashtag is what is the pound symbol. Also open submissions, also submissions open, also accepting submissions. Track also, this is really important, track whatever genre you're trying to publish in and add the word submissions or the word subs. So I'm going to be talking about myself a bit. What I would be doing is searching, and I do this. I would do hybrid subs open. That is sort of a weird one because that can mean a lot of things in like other mediums. So you might do short fiction subs or narrative poetry subs or just poetry subs or poetry subs open. I don't know if there's any way to do it like you would do a Google alert where you can like, I want this term plus this term. So I get, if both of these tags are in a post, I'll see it. I've never tried that. So I don't know if you can do that. I kind of doubt it. And then importantly, follow your favorite publications. Since you're doing the reading, you'll know what your favorite publications are. And if you are new to this process, the first thing to do is like look at somewhere, either writers or organizations, people you trust, see who they're following is a good one. And then otherwise, if you're like really feeling lost, you like don't have a social media presence and you don't know where to start finding publications, go to one of those websites I listed and look for your genre, right? And you'll filter for your genre and then just start reading. It's sort of a longer way around, but it's also like, we got to start somewhere. And honestly, that's what I did. Because the stuff that I had available to me, the stuff that I was reading when I started out trying to publish was really major stuff. It was like I knew about The Sun, and I knew about McSweeney's, and I knew about The New Yorker, and I knew about the Paris Review. And those weren't going to publish me. And they still aren't, honestly. Um, you know, maybe they will. Uh, so that's how I started. I was like, okay, well, these people want writing. Let's see. Let's see. Because I had also had the advice that you need to read before you submit. Um, I'm not perfect. I didn't always do my homework. I do now. But yeah, we got to start somewhere. So either find somebody you trust and see what they're following and what they're reading, or just see who's accepting and start reading there. That would probably be better if you look for like a deadline that's not coming up too soon, so that you can actually, put the work in. But yeah, it's not like hard work, but it is work. Um, I want to add this little caveat when you are submitting, and this is like a weird time to say this, but don't pay too much for submissions. You can either set yourself like a dollar limit, how much you're willing to spend in a month, or how much you're willing to spend on a single submission. But paying for more submissions doesn't mean you're getting more acceptances. Some places charge a lot. Some places only charge, they're like, we're just trying to keep the lights on. Um, some places are like by donation, or they'll say like, it's free to submit, but if you want feedback, pay this amount. So just make sure before you start submitting that you know your limits on that, because that can get pretty crazy pretty fast. Okay, so we're coming through heavy feather review, and we see something accepting, I'm using myself as an example, hybrid nonfiction, and the deadline is next week. But I don't know this publication. I get it. No one is going to know if you don't do your homework. Um, you really want to do your homework. I'm gonna keep saying this. I write hybrid, so I know that a lot of places are open to hybrid works. Most of these places don't publish stuff that's as weird as what I'm writing. I use weird formatting, so like visually my work doesn't look the same necessarily. Um, and a lot of the times people are into like hybrid language, but not hybrid formats, or they don't know how to read your work. Um, so if I'm just submitting somewhere I don't know, and then it turns out that they don't accept my style, um, I'm not actually I'm not actually saving myself effort here. I'm just like getting disappointed later when I get that rejection. So, putting that time and effort and money into a submission blindly is doing myself a disservice. I'm going to be sad later, and like submitting stuff is not necessarily easy. Like everywhere has specific rules which you have to read. You have to read the submission guidelines. It is really easy to mess that up. And as somebody who has worked on publications, if you don't follow the guidelines, I'm not going to read your work. It says two things to me, and I'll talk more about this later, but it says two things to me. You can't be bothered to read the rules, which means you're not putting a lot of attention or effort into the submission. And you're not respecting my time. The submission guidelines exist for a reason. It's to streamline the process for everyone, particularly the people who are hopefully going to publish you. Read the submission guidelines. They will not read your submission if you don't follow the guideline. 98% of the time, 99% of the time. If you don't follow the submission guidelines, you're not getting accepted. Okay. Okay. So all of this stuff is really straightforward. It's not, I really want to emphasize, I know it's not like easy, because I think it sounds easy. And then when you sit down to do it, and I'm speaking from personal experience, you sit down to do it, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get to know some publications before I submit, or like just to get to know the literary landscape so that I can be like a better literary citizen and get my work out in a more, I don't know, in a more streamlined way. Um, but I do know that it's not actually easy. It would be really great if I could just be like, this place is looking for submissions, so here's my Word document. And that ain't it. Okay. So it's straightforward, more or less. We've got that out of the way. What next? Once you've done some reading, start following your favorite journals. If you're not on socials, that's okay. Here's a little bit of advice. It's not perfect. Um, you can do a Google alert on your favorite journals, and that would be like the Sun magazine plus open submissions or submission call or whatever. You can set up an RSS feed. I don't remember how to do that. It's been a very long time since I've done it. But you'll go to the website and you'll say, "Dear internet provider and an email provider of mine, let me know when updates happen to this website." Um, or you can give yourself reminders and once a week or once a month or whatever, you'll check in on these publications. Next, this is weirdly like not an easy thing. And it's going to sound really stupid. You need to know what you've written. That sounds really stupid. I know that. Um, but it's really real. It's really risky to write something fresh for publication. A lot of people do that. A lot of people are like really motivated by the time crunch. It's me. I love a deadline. I hate deadlines, but they love me. Um, Maybe hate is a strong word. Um, People do it all the time. But with that time crunch, it's difficult to really flesh out a piece and edit it and let it breathe and, know where the piece wants to go or should be going. Um, so deadlines are your sweet spot, like do what works for you. But regardless, like you submit it on that deadline, keep working on it, see how good you can make it. Um, this is under the heading of know what you've written. Search places, search these places, these publications with one specific piece of writing in mind. So we're going to use me as an example. I just wrote a hybrid essay about coffee, which has been picked up for publication. Thank you. um, so I'm searching for a press to publish this essay. What am I looking for? Here's what my essay does. It deals with coffee, Swana, that's Southwest Asia, North Africa. So it deals with that culture. Just mine. It's not like anyway. I'm looking for places that accept hybrid or prose poetry and maybe a little spirituality and magic. So I'm looking for a publication that publishes hybrid nonfiction, which is not the most common thing in the world, that's open to multicultural stories or food and drink stories. And maybe a little bit of like, I don't know, I don't feel like magic is the right word, but a little bit in the less grounded world. So there might be a really cool place that accepts all of those things, but if I start talking about magic, they're going to be like, no, we need this stuff to be more grounded. That's possible. So here's what I'm doing, right? I have this one specific piece in mind. I feel really good about it. It is done. And this is the one that I'm working on today, or however I set aside time to do my submitting. And that's what I do. I put like a morning aside once a month-ish, and I do submissions. So I'm going to start looking at my favorite publications and my favorite publications that publish work like mine. Are their submissions open? If so, then I'm going to look specifically on their website or whatever platform they use for what they're currently looking for. A lot of the time, they will post this. And like half the time, they'll be like, we're specifically looking for hybrid essays that engage with gardening. I don't or whatever it is. About half the time they'll say this. It'll be like part of their mission or this next issue's theme. Then I will see, double check for sure. I'm looking at my favorite pubs. Their subs are open. What are they looking for? And now I got to review. Does my piece actually fit here? This is why we're only doing one piece at a time. Then I submit. And I'll spend, I already said this really, a day or a couple hours or whatever, I'll set aside time just to submit this piece. And I'll submit it, I don't know, 10 places. Um, and then a different piece will come at a different time because I need to be focused on what I'm really looking for. And it's not easy for me in particular. I'll be like, oh, this place accepts hybrid poetry. I think I have a poem. I think it's ready. And then I get off track and I'm probably looking at publications that don't fit the thing that's now in my head. I'm looking at publications that take nonfiction. And now I'm like, so I'll send them a poem. No, no, no. just me, one at a time. Another thing that I'll do occasionally, and this is less often, is just search publications and see and like bookmark them for later to review what they take or to review when their deadline is closer or because, you know, just find new publications is a useful way to set aside time too. Or it's useful to set aside time for finding new publications as well. Now, the easy thing to do, ignoring all the advice I've given, is to just search for publications that take your genre and have open subs. I feel like I've said this enough, but I'm just going to keep saying it because I think we can all agree that like my logic is sound and all that, but that doesn't really change the way that people behave in my experience. So ignoring all of my advice, you're just searching subs that take your genre and have open submissions and you're just sending your work out, you're actually going to be spending way more time on this and get way more rejections. That's because you're not making sure that you fit this publication or that they fit you. Also, if you're spending money on submissions and doing this, you're also losing money. I assume because this is like what I kind of wanted to be able to do for you was that someone out there is hoping I would just say go to this website and boom, published. Like it's a I don't know, a dating app and you can be like I'm going to heart this publication's face and then they're going to look at me and everything will be good. But we should be really grateful that that's not how it works. And here's why we should be grateful that that's not how it works. People like me are reading your work when you submit it. We have a big pile of submissions that we're reading when we're preparing to publish something. And mostly we can tell if you're not familiar with our work. I mean, it's possible that you're like, I really like what you put out. My work is nothing like it. Let me just give it a shot. But if I find out later that somebody didn't read the publication when they sent it to me, I feel a little disrespected. You worked for a long time on your poem or story or essay or whatever. I spent weeks or months putting together the publication, maybe even longer. If you want me to love your piece, I want you to care about where you're submitting to. Presumably, you want to be published alongside talented writers in a respected publication. If you're not reading the work, you won't know if it's a respectable publication. You won't know if the people you're published alongside are talented. Maybe you just submitted to a place where every other piece exemplifies or celebrates things that you find offensive. That can happen. Like that can happen. So I'm not sorry. This isn't like a really super easy fill out some bubbles and get yourself published situation. I want to be a little more streamlined and be able to be like, here are the boxes that you check to get the thing done. But honestly, when it really comes down to streamlining, it's about your personal process. I like this phrase, but I'm also very annoyed whenever anyone says it to me. If you do the work will do the work. All you really have to do is read and write and maybe track tags. That's the lesson for the day. Uh, yeah, I felt a little bit pushy in this video, and that is just because like people always ask this advice and people also don't tend to heed this advice. So it's that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place where people just don't like the answer. We're going to move into now updates from the Midwest Writing Center. I didn't bring my calendar in here with me, so it's going to be a short update. Let's see. We've got Writers Studio this weekend. It's the first and third Saturday of every month from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. There is an in-person version and an online version. They're at the same time, so you can't do both. It's not hybrid. It's two separate groups. The in-person group meets at the Midwest Writing Center, which is the ground floor of the Rock Island Public Library downtown branch. That's on 4th Avenue in Rock Island, 4th Avenue and 19th Street in Rock Island. And the online group is online. There's a link to that, to the online group in our link tree, or you can hit me up, ask in the comments or whatever. We'll send it to you. Next Monday, November 18th, we have a really cool, it was just very difficult for me to get the word workshop out for a moment. We have a really cool class on, it's called Application Bootcamp. And Jeffrey Wolf is a professor out of Chicago and who has won a lot of these things, is giving advice on how to find the residencies, grants, fellowships, opportunities like that for you and how to get them. Sorry, I was sort of conflating the title of this video with that. That workshop is how to get those opportunities. He'll talk a bit about finding the right opportunities for you, and then he's going to help us master the application process so we can get those opportunities. That's $20 for non-members, $10 for members. So very affordable, online. Jeff really knows this stuff. He is winning these opportunities all the time. I'm going to be taking the class. I want the secrets. That's going to be really, really wonderful. And then December 7th is our next Spectra reading event. That's, of course, at Roz Talks in Rock Island. That's totally free. Narratives QC is going to be there with us, co-hosting the event. It's going to be really wonderful. The headliner is Jacob Sands out of Chicago. There's going to be at 6 p.m. There's going to be a free writing class. At 7 p.m. there's going to be an open mic, and then some poets from Narratives QC will perform, and then Jacob Sands. Again, totally free. It's at Roz Talks. We love Roz Talks. December 7th, starting at 6 p.m. is that writing workshop. So those are my updates for now. As I just almost skipped the prompt. Now I would love, love, love for you to set 5-10 minutes on your timer. And whatever comes out is whatever comes out. This is meant to be generative, low key, easy, just getting you writing. So whatever comes out, journal, poetry, fiction, wonderful. So here's the prompt. Imagine the itsy bitsy spider, the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Imagine the itsy bitsy spider as a soap opera. Write it. Add characters, interpersonal conflict. We already know the weather is going to have a big dramatic impact on the plot. But add interpersonal conflict. That's what makes a soap opera go. Thanks for hanging out with me. As always, please write more light into your life.